Isn't it amazing how subtle the music is in Bambi? You don't really realize how swept away and enveloped you are by it. Through that music, you actually enter the forest.
It's making nature itself a character and bringing it to the screen in a way that certainly no one had done in animation before, and I think very few people had even attempted to do in live action.
And I realized that it was a pastoral symphony, just as Beethoven wrote, which was something that was in their minds at the time, clearly, because Fantasia was being completed at the same time. A pastoral symphony for children. Every cell that you see, every background, is completely brilliant work. But the impact of a motion picture, the succession of images, of film, is glued together by the music. This is why music has always been part of movies.
There's a beautiful scene where Bambi has fallen down and all the rabbits go, "Get up, Bambi, get up."
Come on, get up. Come on. Get up, Bambi. Get up.
And he has a way of getting up with doing one leg first and then the other leg catches up. It's just gorgeous. And that's all done to music. And that unity between music and animation is just fantastic.
That Disney cared so much about music cannot ever be overstated. Music was as important to him as anything that happened on the screen.
I think Walt realized that music was going to have to play an exceptional role in Bambi because the dialogue is so minimal. He would very often make the artists storyboard sequences in mime, and then only at the very last minute could they add what dialogue they absolutely couldn't do without.
From the beginning of Bambi to the end of Bambi, there's almost not a moment without music. There are two 18-second silences. One is when Bambi's mother says,
"Man was in the forest."
And there's complete silence. I mean, 18 seconds is a really long time. And the other time is after Bambi's mother dies. These moments of silence are powerful because they're surrounded by wall-to-wall music.
There were 2 Academy Award nominations for Bambi. Both had to do with music. The song Love Is a Song was nominated, and the song behind the credits by Donald Novis, who was a very important singer at that time, and also the scoring was nominated as well.
The main composer behind Bambi is Frank Churchill. His music, his themes, his motifs were taken and then arranged into the final score, and Edward Plum did what you would call secondary scoring. Plum was a musical director for Fantasia, so when you hear some of his music in the film, it definitely has a more classical sound than Frank Churchill. Frank Churchill had had a huge success with Snow White. He had written all the songs and a lot of the underscoring, and those were songs that were on the hit parade. They were extremely popular. He wrote Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf from the Three Little Pigs.
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Big bad wolf, big bad wolf.
His melodies were very simple, very catchy, and very memorable. He was relatively untrained, but an intuitive, natural musician who could come up with endless melodies.
His on-the-job training was to play music for silent movies. What a lot of people don't realize is that when silent films were being filmed, the actors and actresses were being put into the mood of the scene by somebody playing a piano. And Frank Churchill used to improvise the moods for these different scenes. That experience made him the ideal person to set the mood, as it were, for a skunk named Flower or a little bunny named Thumper or for Bambi.
I remember clearly how we were involved with the first rainstorm, and we wanted a raindrop song that would show Bambi experiencing the first raindrops. And we didn't have anything at the time, and finally Frank Churchill came in one day. Frank was quite a character. He shuffled down the hall, and he always wore his hat. And he sat down at the piano wearing his hat, crossed his legs over, and he puts one foot on the pedal, reaches in his pocket, takes out a little script, puts it down on the piano, and then starts to tinkle off on the piano there, this little raindrop song. And it was so charming, it was unbelievable.
Somebody could take a chord and and nothing, but Frank Churchill could take it and it's the creative genius that Frank Churchill had.
The way he makes us feel nature and yet write simple tunes of all different kinds of qualities is really quite interesting in Bambi. Ed Plum, who was the other composer, is said to have studied with Johann Strauss, which is very believable. There's no question that between the two of them, they create a world of the past, maybe when we might have been closer to nature.
And it's really amazing that the score is so unified because you have the very sophisticated work of Edward Plum with its echo of Stravinsky and Ravel, and then you have the very childlike melodies of Frank Churchill. You have the main title, which is the Love is a Song theme, which is sung by a tenor, and then you have the music for the forest waking up, and it's just a very simple theme, but very lovely. The man motif, which was just a simple three-note progression down here. And here's a melody that Edward Plum composed for the autumn sequence. Almost every measure of that is a different chord. The whole film just has emotional power to it, generated by the musical score.
Bambi is the first feature film of any kind where songs were sung off camera, not by the characters themselves, in order to pass on the narrative.
When you have less than 1,000 words of dialogue in a film, your ear really hungers for sound. 40-voice choir, 4 individual artists singing beautiful, lovely, melodic tunes. The feast of music with this broad, ranging orchestral score.
When you look at Bambi today, you're aware of Walt Disney's seriousness of his purpose in entertaining. What a high level he set. We now are the recipients of this tremendous vision, and we just now almost take it for granted. If you look at it really carefully and listen to it really carefully, you're amazed at how far they push the envelope. I don't think Bambi would be Bambi without its music.